So we had the chance to speak to Will Smith, the creator and showrunner of Slow Horses on Apple TV Plus. It was a really long conversation, so we had to split the interview up into two parts. Here now is the first part of our conversation. Check it out. Will, this is an absolute pleasure. First of all, congratulations, man, on the long overdue and much deserved nomination and win. It's about freaking time.
It's very, very kind of you to say that. Thank you so much.
And let me tell you, you are making my life as a writer and a critic very difficult because I'm running out of interesting ways to talk about how awesome your show is. I
Oh,
swear to
okay.
God, I was writing my review this time and I'm like, no, you've said this before. Come on, be
I'm
smarter than
glad
this.
glad we're consistent. That's good. That's good.
I was wondering if you could talk to me about, I guess, economy of writing, which is something you guys employ incredibly well in the
Hmm.
show. And you can see from the transition between what happened at the last season to the beginning of this season, those in between season moments, there's a lot that's transpired
Hmm.
with River, with the file, with all of that stuff. But you
Yeah.
don't over explain it because
Mhm.
you have a tremendous amount of confidence in the audience that we'll figure things out.
Yeah.
Can you talk to me about that? Because there is a tendency for a lot of shows to dumb those things down.
Well, I never want the actors to feel like they are explaining the story to the audience because then you kill the drama. And also, you normally at that stage, you've got an unhappy actor, so you won't be getting the best performance out of them. You want them to be feeling they're saying the thing they would be saying in that moment. And so I always try and strip out the exposition and bury it in other scenes or just yeah, like you say, present it and then they can figure it out. Like I really enjoy the fact that one of the final scenes of series three is Taverna, Lamb and Taverna, where Lamb is basically your first desk now. Well done, you've got what you wanted, and she's really happy about it all. And then you start this season by saying first desk is approaching, and you have the shot of her with him in the background, and then when they
Right.
get out of the car. They're saying first desk is here, and he goes, "Hi, first desk, Claude Whelan," and you're like, "Oh, hang on." And then over the first two eps, you unpack how that happened and why that happened, and how they're all feeling about that. And I just think that's just a more interesting way. It's how I like to watch TV and how I like to read books, where you feel it's you're dropping in on it and it's unfolding naturally, and people aren't pausing to explain something that they would have known 6 months ago that doesn't make any sense for them to talk about it as though it's just news. It's kind of you want to find out, you want to kind of get convey that information through the emotional state that they're in at that point.
And Claude is the perfect sniveling
It's wonderful.
bureaucrat.
It's
I
wonderful, isn't he?
absolutely love him. And what I think works so well is that it's almost an expected dynamic in the sense that, sure, of course, that's the guy they would appoint. It makes
Yes. Yeah.
complete sense that that's
Yes.
the guy who they would put over the more experienced woman.
That is great to hear that because we did a lot of discussion, me and James and Kristen, about why he got the job, why they would appoint him. And it's exactly that. It's like they put him in because he's not going to cause them any trouble. They're bureaucrats, so he reminds them of themselves. He's not a threat, whereas she would answer back and knows more than them. So it would be difficult to kind of control because she actually knows the job, whereas they don't, and all that kind of stuff. So to us, it made total sense and felt very real that they put someone in there who's completely out of their depth and just messes it up.
And of course, throughout the season, I was constantly questioning his this sudden moral conscience that he develops,
Mhm.
whether it
Mhm.
was real or whether he was playing a game or trying to somehow curry favor. And I thought that was very well played as well because I didn't know he was trying to be the good guy, but not
Yeah,
really.
but he's trying to be the good guy, but there's a certain naivety to him being a good guy, and there's a certain sort of holier than thou kind of self-promotional aspect to his kind of, I'm going to come in and tell you how to do it. This is where you've all been going wrong, and not realizing the kind of realities of the job and the role, and that's what Taverner schools him in, and that's where he comes unstuck. And then he's just he's a classic arse coverer as well. He's just going to try
Exactly.
and throw everyone else
Exactly.
under the bus, and but I know James absolutely loved playing him, and you can see that Kristen's really enjoying doing the scenes with him because it just gives her a different dynamic and a different relationship. very different to Tierney, who was a hugely competent kind of rival for her. She'd kind of
Yeah.
met her match in Tierney, and that was fun. And then it's just, well, we don't want to repeat that. It's let's have her as her rival as somebody who's just, just so beneath her, but she still, has to put up with him.
If we could get TV nerdy for a second, I guess British television has had a long history of doing the 6 episode
Mhm.
shows, and they pull it off very well. And forgive me for saying this, but it's something the Americans haven't quite
Mhm.
cotton on to yet, in the sense that oftentimes a 10 and a 12 episode season on streaming feels like there is a lot of filler. Meanwhile, Slow Horses is incredibly dense. There is a
Mhm.
lot that happens within those 6 episodes. And I was wondering if you could nerd out with me a little bit and talk to me how you break that down, because honestly, it's a pet peeve of mine where I'm watching something on a streamer and I'm like, no, this flashback is completely unnecessary, or there is so
Yeah, I
much
know.
bloat here. How do you break that down? Because it's so dense. There's so much happening in your show.
Thank you. Well, I mean, we're helped by the fact that the books are all set over a kind of 1, 2, 3 day period, and they go through the night. So that it's got a natural drive that if you tried to stretch that to 10 episodes, it would start to feel kind of implausible on the timeline. I don't know, it would just, you just feel that it would feel unrealistic. It's just I think the pace we have, or the 6 eps just seems to fit the timeline of the story. And like you say, and that gives it an urgency because people aren't going to bed, they're not getting changed, they're not stopping, they're not sleeping, they're not brushing their teeth, they're not resetting. It's just it's got to be dealt with now. It's got to be sorted now. It's not like, oh, and a week later we're still dealing with the problem. It's like, so that I
Right.
think it's partly the timeline gives it that drive, and you can't really mess with that. And and that's really how we want it. I mean, and again, it sort of comes back to being true to the books, but it's also trying to be true to what we've set up for the show and the kind of shows that we like, where it does have that kind of drive and push. And again, it helps that thing I was saying about the actors feeling like they're saying the thing they would at that time. And you don't want them to feel they're doing this scene because we needed an episode 7 and an episode 8 to get to the climax of 9 and 10. That
Right.
so it's sort of bridging material to kind of just kind of sidebar episodes that
I swear to
can
God, I
be.
press stop now every time there is an episode 7 flashback. I'm just like, come on. When the episode
I
starts and it
mean,
goes 7 years ago, I'm like, no.
some shows did it. Like I remember what I loved about The Shield, which is one of my favorite shows, is that kind of had the drive of 24, the propulsion of 24, but it had the sort of depth of kind of like Sopranos and Wire in terms of the characters and the kind of themes and the stories. But yeah. But I mean, I suppose with The Shield, it was like they were dealing with sort of they'd have a sort of story of the week as well as keying it into an overarching thing. So they always had some pressing thing they had to solve for that episode, but then which gave it the drive. But then it would sort of also connect. There were no really standalone episodes in The Shield. It all kind of builds and interweaves. I mean, it's incredible, that series. So I mean, that's probably in my memory is like that's how you do a kind of a thriller, is like you just there's a freneticism to it. And then the fun you have is you've got the freneticism of, say, River, who's out driving it, trying to sort stuff. And then Lamb, who's pulling against that, whose instinct is, I just want to fall asleep behind my desk, but I've got to get up and
Yeah.
sort this crap out because of you idiots. So it's just there's just a wonderful mix in there of the characters and how they kind of push and pull against the pace of the show.
I don't know why you're bothering me with all of this. Shouldn't you be out there making sure no more bombs go off?
Watch this space for part 2 of our conversation with Will Smith. In the meantime, watch Slow Horses on Apple TV Plus. It is absolutely fantastic. Tell us what you think about the show. Sound off in the comments. And thank you so much for watching.